Hi everybody, I'm Cindy
And I'm Gary.
and we are Pathways Homestead. And we have been tagged in a collaboration that was started by Copper Kettle Farm. We were tagged by Shelly with T&S Dogs and Dragonfly Farm. And so there's 10 questions we need to answer. And the first question is, what got you into homesteading? Well, we kind of, it's been our way of life for our families at some point of homesteading. We grew up in rural communities, and my dad has always had cattle, and he had grown up on a farm, and my mom and granny and even my dad loved to have a big garden. And when I was little, my granny had rabbits and chickens that we would butcher and eat. So it was just kind of a way of life.
Yeah, I grew up with it. We had a garden and we raised beef, some cattle for beef off and on. We had sheep and we had hogs, and we raised and sold show hogs, and we worked cattle for people, and we coon hunted and deer hunted and squirrel hunted and raised dogs, and we ran rabbits, and we did a lot of foraging, big family outings. Sometimes we're picking wild onions or blackberries or pecans, and grandparents, everybody around us did something like that at some point or other. We sold firewood at times, and we cut wood, and we had horses and mules, and that was part of life for us. Well, I specifically remember when I was a kid, one of my favorite dishes was a beef stew that my mom would make, or deer stew, whatever meat she had, and we were planting the garden, and next to the garden was a lot where Dad had a Jersey steer that he was raising for beef, and I remember telling my parents that I wanted to raise everything that was in that stew, and we didn't raise everything that year, but we did plant a few of those ingredients, and that's something that I've kind of always enjoyed, is raising my own food and growing and foraging my own food. Right before Cindy and I got married, I was helping my mother in her raised beds, and one of Cindy's favorite things to eat back then was spaghetti. She would get spaghetti sauce in a can and get spaghetti noodles, and my mom had made the spaghetti sauce a lot when I was a kid, so I asked her what all you would need to grow to have the ingredients in spaghetti, because I wanted to be able to grow everything that was in Cindy's favorite dish, and so we discussed that. But and I think that for homesteading, I don't know, we've gotten into different degrees of it at times, and it's always been more of a backup, a survival for us. Like when things were tough, that's what we did, because that was there and that was available. When we've had money problems, the place you could cut your budget was always food.
Right.
You didn't have to go buy food. We could grow something different, we could forage something different, we could find something different. We could make our own from scratch, from minimal ingredients. And so that's kind of been survival when our kids were little. Well, before we had children, I guess we had Luke, our son, and I was working a construction job on a bridge, and that bridge we were getting done, and so we knew that job was coming to the end and I'll probably get laid off. So one of the things we did is we made sure that we had a corner. We were living in a trailer house that I'd traded a cow and a calf for on her dad's place, and we had a little corner cabinet that was pretty good size, and we made sure it was stocked with food, with dry goods and canned goods and things that we'd put away from our garden and things that we had bought. We made sure it was full. That way, and we heated with wood, and we lived on her dad's place, and that way if I lost my job and it was a little bit before I could find another one, we were good. We were took care of, and that's just kind of always been our mindsets as a couple. That's how we take care of things. We've always been, we don't have to buy everything.
Right.
We can make do and build and do things from ourselves, and that's just something we kind of always been there. But in our homesteading journey, there has been steps where we've learned to do more and learned to do things by ourselves. When I learned to cure meat, that really stepped up our homesteading game. When I had learned to butcher some when I was young from my parents, but when I learned I guess when I learned to take a deer and actually get it cut up into good packaged steaks instead of hindquarters wrapped up that we'd whittle on, that helped us a lot. That made Cindy want to cook it more because it was packaged better. That made us enjoy it more, so that really stepped up our homesteading game. Then I started butchering our pigs, and I learned it took me a few messed up hams and a few messed up bacons, but I learned to cure our own ham and bacon. Man, that stepped our homesteading game up a lot. There was a point where I had gotten really sick and I was having trouble working enough, and we were living in the country on a place, and homesteading was our backup. That's what we did. We ended up selling stuff at farmers markets and growing our own food. And our kids, you know, anytime they'd talk about something, they would something they wanted, they would wonder if we could make that or if we could grow that, because that
was our way of life.
That was what they'd learned. And so that's always been just kind of who we are. But in the journey, there's been a lot of neat steps in the journey. We have learned to preserve more and more. We have learned to grow our own and not have to buy anything prepackaged more and more. When we quit eating junk food, that helped a lot. We have. Hopefully we'll continue on that journey, growing and figuring out more and
there's
learning
always
more.
Something to learn. Always something to learn.
When we moved to Kansas, we moved here for a job that had a very low wage, but that was the choice we'd made, and we lived in a camper for a little bit till we found a place in the country. We knew we needed a place in the country. We rented a house in the country on a river bottom, and we could not have asked for a better.
That was great.
The landlords were great, and it was an old kind of run-down farmhouse, but the location was great. It was on the Verdigris River, and for the first several years we were there, we were able to just hunt and fish and forage and do anything we wanted out there. We were able to grow a garden and have some chickens and some pigs, and there was farmers around us growing corn, and they would let us glean the fields, and we raised a couple of pigs at least on completely gleaned, where all we bought was soybean meal, and we added that to the feed, and we butchered a pig that I raised one pig, and by the time I paid for it and paid for the soybean meal and paid for the curing ingredients and the wrapping, I had 32 cents a pound in that meat of that pig, because we had gleaned all the feed and we bought the pig sheep and we'd done all the processing ourselves, and that was kind of an amazing thing to us. And now we're to the point where we're actually able to make income on some of those things, as far as livestock and stuff like that, and so.
Which we had done before.
Yeah.
When we had our farm in Oklahoma, we had done that before. We had sold beef and pigs, and we had gone to auctions with chickens, and I mean, we had butchered our laying hens that had quit laying and the young roosters that we had that we'd grow out. But to the extent that we do now, this has been the highest level, I guess you would say. And but a lot of it's been survival. We have chose to follow the Lord and follow His leading in our lives, and He has taught us a lot. More to depend on Him than ourselves, and so. But anyway, I guess we better get back to our questions.
Another thing, and this may come up in another question, but we have just recently started calling this homesteading.
Yeah.
We didn't know what to call it. It was just the way we lived, and we've done it, and we've been into it, and we've started in the past 15 years starting reading magazines about it and seeing other people on YouTube and TV doing it, and it's like, so what do we call this? And self-reliance was one of the words we heard, and we're like, we can't call this self-reliance because we completely rely on God in it. So, I mean, what do we call it? And then several years ago, we come across the term homesteading that wasn't like the Homestead Act of 18 whatever, you know. It wasn't going out and earning a piece of land by living on it, but it was actually just growing your own food. And the term that you guys are probably familiar with is homesteading. We learned that term and we started calling it that, and that's been kind of a I guess another step in the journey for us is to call it homesteading.
Just to call it homesteading. Okay, question number 2. What do you want to add to your homestead in 2020? I would like to add a milk cow, although I'm allergic to milk, to cow's milk. But we added a milk goat this year in 2019, and then I did not know what to look for parasites, and we lost her. We assumed parasites. We're not real sure. But that's that. And Gary, what do you want to add? It's a cat.
Definitely would like to add bees at some point. As far as new things, we're getting deeper into the cattle thing, and we're going to start looking at cow-calf pairs before long, and some things like that. But as far as new things, bees is something that's on my list.
Question number 3. What is the most difficult lesson you have learned while homesteading? Mine has been not to be lazy. That stuff isn't going to wait. You've got to get busy. You got to get it done. You got to get the animals fed because they're dependent on you. And your garden stuff is going to waste if you don't hurry up and get it processed, whether that's canning it or freezing it or giving it away to your friends, to get it took care of.
So for me, I guess the biggest lesson is it's all right to fail.
Yeah.
If you don't get something done just right, it's okay for it to not work out right. You can try again, and failures in the garden can be fed to the hogs, and failures in the kitchen can be fed to the hogs, and that's not a failure. It's okay. And so I think just learning to be okay with things not working out like you planned, that's one of my biggest lessons.
Okay, number 4. What is your favorite chore?
Cattle. I like taking care of the cattle. I like all animals, but feeding cattle and sorting and moving cattle, that's probably my favorite.
And you've done that professionally too.
Oh yeah, I've worked
Yeah.
as a ranch hand and stuff before.
My favorite has to be the chickens and the garden. I really like the garden and my chickens. Okay, number 5. Now we're to number 5. What is your favorite thing to grow? Mine would have to be the vegetables, the food.
Beef.
Beef.
I like raising beef.
raising beef too. So I like to eat beef. Although when I was growing up, I thought I'd get sick of it because we ate a lot of beef, but we ate a lot of pork too. My dad would buy my cousin's FFA or 4-H hogs. So FFA, we didn't really have that much 4-H when I was growing up, but he would buy my cousins or a neighbor kids 4-H hog. And when I was really small, we raised hogs on our farm too, just to take to the butcher.
And pigs used to be probably my favorite. I've always liked cattle, and my whole dream growing up is I wanted to be a cowboy, and I learned that was a real fun way to starve to death. But pigs have often been some of my favorites, and I don't know if you can see my cup, but this is a different breeds of pigs on this cup, and this is something I got when I was a little kid, and I still got this cup. So but right now I'd say beef is my favorite thing to raise.
All right. Number 6. What do you love the most about the homesteading community? I would have to say the people. Holy cow. We found our people. We thought we were just kind of out there. I mean, everybody that we live around, because we live in cattle country, everybody kind of farms in some aspect, except for the town folks, which are just a little ways from us. But everybody does some sort, whether they raise beef or they raise pork or whatever. This is farm
beans and
or
wheat.
beans and wheat. We're in farm country, but nobody, or I can't say nobody, very few people do it to the extreme that we do. And I think some of them think we're crazy a little bit. And very few of them have a stay-at-home wife. Pretty much that's kind of I hate to say, yeah, that's just
not
common.
Common, yeah.
Yeah, not common. A lot of people farm and have full-time jobs, and then their wife will have a full-time job somewhere too.
What was that question again?
What is your favorite? What do you love the most about the homesteading community? This is where we wanted to talk about Baker Creek.
Oh yeah. So in our homesteading journey, learning what homesteading even was, last year was our
May.
we were going to be married 25 years, and we wanted to go on a big trip, and we just couldn't make that happen. So we decided little trips was the thing to do. And one of the things we wanted to do was go to the planting festival, the spring planting festival at Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, and I'd read about it in a magazine or something.
And we'd heard a little bit about it on YouTube too.
So we decided to go to that, and before we went to a farmer's market and met Kevin and Sarah at Living Traditions, and they're actually who told us kind of what camera to get and guided us in getting our camera. And we got to visit with Ben and Andrea at VW Farms at Baker Creek. And
Maya and
Jessica. And we met several people and just really met some neat folks. And Ben and Andrea encouraged us to do this YouTube thing. We kind of started it and we're going to quit it, and they encouraged us to keep going. And we're glad they did. We enjoy this. But just at Baker Creek, I figured out that, hey, there's other people with the same values and the same ideas and the same goals as us. And I guess just knowing that there's other folks out there kind of doing the same thing, and that I can get on this YouTube thing and talk about pawpaws and butchering beef and not be the odd man out. I just kind of enjoy that. And I've got friends that like those kind of things, and I can talk about those kind of things too. But that there is this community, I think, is what I like about this community.
Number 7, what is your favorite meal to make?
I like to make something we call a skillet mess. So I take whatever there is in the refrigerator and whatever's come out of the garden, and I chop it up and I fry it in a cast iron skillet.
In bacon grease, usually.
Yeah. Usually I start with pieces of meat, piece of bacon or ham, and get it cooking and get some grease in the skillet. And then I'll cut up potatoes and onions and peppers and squash, and maybe cut some corn off the cob and some green beans or whatever, and just kind of stir fry it all together with some salt and pepper on it. And that's my favorite thing to cook.
I think mine has to be chicken and noodles or potato soup. There's just something about making your own noodles. One year I distinctly remember making potato soup, and I like potato soup that has like onions and carrots and celery and stuff in it. And I remember making potato soup, and I'd made the quick and easy kind of potato soup that was just like my granny had made, that was just basically potatoes and onions and then milk and butter. And so the milk and butter were the only things that we hadn't grown ourselves, and I remember that. And then I remember making chicken and noodles, and it'd been with our own chicken and even our own carrots and onions. The celery had been bought, and the milk had been bought, and butter. But that really stuck in my mind. So, all right. Our next question, number 8, is what is your favorite holiday? Christmas. You guys can check out our video on our favorite Christmas tradition is the birthday cake for Jesus, and Christmas, celebrating Christ's birth. And then probably Easter, celebrating his resurrection, because if you guys don't know yet, he is the center of our life, and almost everything we do, we work towards revolving around him, because he is everything.
Yeah, in April of 2000, I surrendered my life to Jesus Christ, and he's changed my world. And so my favorite holidays are definitely Christmas and Easter because of what that represents, because of who Jesus is and what he did for me, and what Easter means as far as our forgiveness of sins and our redemption. So that's definitely our favorite.
Number 9, is this where you intend to stay, or are you planning on moving? So is this our forever homestead? We hope so. We hope so. We love it here in Kansas, but we have learned to never say never, because, one of my famous nevers was I was never going to move to Wyoming. Yeah. And guess where we ended up? Yeah. At about, what had we been married? About not quite 10 years, or about 10 years.
Over.
A little over 10 years, 10, 11 years, and we ended up in Wyoming. And I thought it was quite funny because we're high school sweethearts, and Gary's senior year of predictions, was that the junior class would always predict what the senior class was going to do. And I'll be honest, I don't remember what my prediction was, what Gary's class had predicted, because he's a year behind me in high school, or was. But so his class predicted what our lives would be like however many years down the road. Well, Gary's prediction was that we would have a bunch of kids and he'd still be trying to convince me to go to Wyoming, and because he wanted to go to Wyoming as soon as he got out of high school and we got married. But I drug my feet and didn't want to go, and then
I didn't even care about it anymore by the time we went.
Right. And so we thought it was funny that, you know, when it came true for the 10 or 15 year or whatever anniversary of their high school reunion, that where we would be, we were there. We were in Wyoming. So I thought that was kind of funny. But no, we hope this is our forever. But we
like the Kansas Flint
We do.
Hills. We love the Kansas Flint Hills. We love our neighbors. We love our farm. I would be happy to be here. But like Cindy said earlier, we make following Jesus, try to make that the center of our life. And so if God asks us to move, if he makes it clear to us that he has a different plan for us, we will move.
We loved Wyoming.
Yeah.
We loved Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And but we love Jesus more. So that's that.
And we love our church family here.
Yes, we
and
do.
hopefully we get to stay here from now on.
Number 10, which homestead channels do you follow? Almost all of them. We follow a lot. We follow so many that we sit down at night and pick and choose which ones we're going to watch, because we just can't keep up with all of them. We just kind of have to pick and choose.
I work 2 jobs and the farm, and so I don't get to watch a lot of them, but we do enjoy a whole bunch of different ones, especially since Baker Creek. About 3 weeks before Baker Creek, when we knew we were going, we started watching some of the channels that talked about it and stuff, and we kind of got caught up in watching those different channels that do the homesteading thing, and that was part of that journey for us, is watching some of these channels. So
we're gonna pick the ones that have impacted our lives the most.
Yes.
So that would have to be Living Traditions, VW.
Living Traditions and VW, the reason they're on the top of the list isn't because of the videos. It's because when we've met them personally and talked to them, and just the advice they've given us and kind of the encouragement they've given us, they meant a lot to us.
And they care. They truly care about people. And Kevin and Sarah, we've been blessed to meet and talk to them several times, and they have just been so encouraging, so kind, and down to earth. And the same with Ben and Andrea. We've asked them questions over the internet, and both families, and they've been super quick to answer and helpful. And so that's why they're at the top of the list. And the number 3 would have to be Heirloom Permaculture.
Yeah.
We met.
Same thing there.
Yeah, same thing. We actually got to physically meet them, and that would be John and Angela with Heirloom Permaculture. We actually got to meet them in October at the Mother Earth News Fair. And we just clicked. Our whole families did. We were blessed that both of our families were there, and we have 2 grown children, and they have 2 high schoolers and then
we've got
elementary
one in high
age.
school that's the same age as our youngest, is the same age as
their oldest.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have a lot in common. We're from the same area in Oklahoma. We have acquaintances. Well, even some of my family members work with John, and just they kind of know each other, and it just kind of was like a small world kind of deal. But so we've really hit it off with them, and they've been so kind to help as well. And like with my mom, medical stuff coming here lately, Angela has checked on my mom weekly. She has asked, "Hey, how's your mom doing? Are you doing okay? What can I do for you?" That kind of thing. Just been an amazing. And same with so we met. Another thing. One of our another small trips we went was the Ozark Homesteading Conference, and we met a lot of folks there, and it was so small and so nice. Of course, we met up with Kevin and Sarah again and talked to them, and they were gracious and let us interview them, and even helped us interview them because we were so nervous. Same with heirloom permaculture. And anyway, we actually got to physically meet Jean and Joyce with Moore's Patch of Heaven, and same with John and Angela. We just have clicked. They are a sweet, precious family, and so if you have not checked out their channel, that's Moore's Patch of Heaven. They are sweet, sweet folks, and so
I enjoy following, and it's not on YouTube really, but it's on Facebook, is Comfort Farms. If y'all haven't checked out Comfort Farms down in Georgia, John Jackson, I met him at we met him at Baker Creek at a food truck.
Yeah.
Comfort Farms is a farm that is down in Georgia. It starts with an M, I don't remember, but he's in Central Georgia, I believe. John Jackson, he's a veteran, and the farm is geared to help veterans deal with the things that veterans deal with when they come back home. And it's just amazing the way he's growing food and the different things he's trying. He's doing some real basic, simple stuff that is kind of like what I grew up with, you know, getting salvaged bread and stuff to feed the hogs and stuff like that. Just really cool. And the way the different adventures they go on. They recently got to go to an island there and went deer hunting and to help the DNR to get some information, and just really neat things. So if you guys ever follow a farm on Facebook, Comfort Farms is a good farm to follow.
Yeah. So our next thing was to tag people, and so far I've only gotten 2 tags. So we're supposed to tag 7, but I'm only going to tag 2. So I'm going to tag Joyce and Jean with Moore's Patch of Heaven, and Nicole with Zurich Farms. Nicole doesn't live far from us, and hopefully we'll get to meet up with her. We've kind of talked back and forth on Facebook a little bit.
I think maybe she even gets feed here close to us.
I think she does, because she had a video, a real short video or a picture or something on Facebook about them picking up feed near us, and so that was kind of like, but we were in Missouri when they came to get feed, of course, so we couldn't meet up. But
yeah, and we might get a couple of more to add on, throw on the end of this at some point. Yeah. So if we do, they'll probably be right about here.
Yeah. I have 5 more tags. Owen and Katie with Mitza Creek. Rachel at Rachel Cobb Photography and Weedy Acres. Perry at Runaway Homestead. Carrie at Rocky Ridge Homestead. And you, whoever you are out there that would love to collab in this and have not been tagged, I tag you. Thank you guys so much, and we pray that you have a blessed day.